Generally speaking, my work revolves around trying to understand how systems function and organize themselves in space and time, biological systems, of course. And that can range anywhere from trying to understand how a single cell works, so for example, how a single cell polarizes in response to a stimulus, to understanding how multicellular systems organize themselves. So for example, how stochastic gene regulation in combination with cell-cell signaling leads to robust development of the developing mammalian embryo. Now, one of the questions I sometimes get is what distinguishes different approaches to systems biology? In particular, what distinguishes kind of a physics or a mathematics-based approach? What I would say to that is that there are many different types of questions that one has to address if they want to understand how a system works. Some of those questions are more of an experimental nature, some of those questions are more of a data sciences or big data nature, and some of those questions are more of a theoretical nature. And I would say that's where those are the types of questions, the latter of those are the types of questions that I typically think about. So for example, what are the fundamental principles that are responsible for a system working the way it does? What's the fundamental mechanism, the minimal mechanism that you may need, for example? What are the constraints of that mechanism? How can you build upon it and improve it? Those are the sorts of questions that I would say often are of interest to physicists, mathematicians, and in particular myself. I think one of the great things about the QSBC is that it really does bring people from all sides of this together. There are people with experimental skill sets, with data sciences skill sets, and others like myself that are thinking about these more theoretical type questions. And at the end of the day, I think that serves two really nice purposes. One is a community building purpose. At the end of the day, I think you're going to need all of these if you're going to understand how systems work at the end of the day. But also from an individual perspective, from my perspective, I think it enhances my research program to have these different people to talk to, and in particular enhances the experiences that the people that work with me and the training experiences that people